go snowstorm. Antarctica. Ice scientists are penguins.
Antarctica, they're opening the abyss.
Our thesis continues to be correct.
Yes,
or proven correct.
I was doing the math, and between when I was sick in September, and then I was traveling, and then I was sick again, I have not been fully engaged in the way that I would prefer in this show for like 5 weeks or something crazy.
Yep.
And in that 5 weeks, there's been so many times when I've come across something or had something to say and just simply couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But today, for those who are aware of our long-standing, long-developing theories about Antarctica and its place in the New World Order, we have a couple of examples of pretty explicit confirmations of that in the mainstream press, starting with theguardian.com. Now, with this one, it's a long article and it's about something that's very boring. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the opening paragraph really drives home what we've been saying. The headline is, "I'm going to spend 5 months with penguins and no Wi-Fi or running water. Here's why." This is from Mary Hilton. Subheadline, "Working in Antarctica is a wildlife enthusiast's dream, but seeing the reality of the climate disaster up close will be brutal." Will be brutal. They are sort of programmed. They are ready. They're bracing themselves to see climate change at its worst, which is funny because obviously this person has not read anything from actual Antarctic scientists, of which 100% of actual climate scientists who work in Antarctica say that climate change is not affecting Antarctica. But no, this person does not care what the Antarctica climate scientists have to say. They are simply programmed and participating in the mainstream narrative that is literally, look, I come at this with a pretty level head, folks. I'm not, I could barely at this point be called a conspiracy theorist. I just read the news and point out what's wrong.
Conspiracy theorist.
This is almost maybe the most conspiratorial piece of thinking that I have. Is there is such a discrepancy between the way that Antarctic climate scientists talk about climate change in Antarctica and the mainstream reporting of the issue that I don't think they even care at all. Zero. I think they have a conscious, not even subconscious, a conscious disdain for the actual fact that climate change is not occurring in Antarctica in any sort of disastrous way. And they are straight up lying consciously, I believe.
Oh, it has to be, yeah.
Because the discrepancy is, it could not be further. They could not be further apart, the truth and what is being reported. But that's beside the point.
I will say that it's kind of like if you can just imagine those movies where you can time travel back and you have somebody from the ancient times come to our time. And then you tell them that, when it starts raining, when there's thunder and lightning, then it's, whatever, some kind of climate change. And then it starts raining and they go, oh my gosh, we've caused climate change or whatever. It's sort of that illusion, the delusion.
A cargo cult. It's like a cargo cult type of thing. Yeah. Anywho, I'm just going to read you this opening paragraph.
Yes, please do.
Because it's like they've listened to our entire playlist on the Canary Cry Clips channel of Antarctica updates, of which there are years of them building up now. And they put them all together and put them in their own words. Here it goes. Antarctica holds an almost mythical appeal. Detached from the rest of the world, its beauty is unique. It is a continent that has never seen a war.
Ooh.
And where testing military capabilities is strictly forbidden. It is, as the Antarctic Treaty reminds us, a natural reserve devoted to peace and science. And that is a perfect description of what we've been calling Antarctica as the Well, we call it the white liberal utopia, which is, the last place on Earth where you won't come in contact with pesky science deniers or pesky, war hawks or pesky. It's the place where rich white liberals can go, feel good about themselves for, being away from all, not just the racists and the things, but also, the not in my backyard type of issues. Antarctica is the place for you. It is heaven on earth, as it's been sort of described other places and here. The rest of this article does go on an incredibly boring story about how this person is going to go study penguins for 5 months.
Studying climate systems.
Yes. And how they're affecting penguins and climate change and all this kind of stuff. And they're very scared, very, very scared about how they're going to see, climate change. And this fits, if you've listened to a lot of our Antarctica updates, you'll know that zero of the long-standing climate scientists who live in Antarctica, who are in the zone, none of them say that climate change is affecting, Antarctica in any long-term way. That they do see things,
icebergs,
right? But the things that they see, they're seeing all the time, and it's been like that for hundreds of years, etc. In fact, they even write anti-climate change, rebukes and publish them. And what we've seen is the establishment send down basically climate change shills to go live in Antarctica with a predetermined, whatever. What am I trying to say?
It's like a presupposition.
Yeah, I mean, they're sending people down there to prove scientifically a predetermined result. Right. Which is not science. It's the opposite of science. It's literally the opposite of how science should be done. But they're tired of all these pesky Antarctican scientists denying climate change. And so they're sending down their own people. And we've seen them. They sent down an astrobiologist. Remember,
a lot of
Dr. Ash?
A lot of them have researched dark energy too.
Yes.
Just kept popping up everywhere. Dark energy scientists.
Astrophysicists, astrobiologists, dark energy researchers, all these really weird, like sort of, I don't know, esoteric study categories.
The priests.
They're sending them down there, right? The sort of dark priests trying to send them down there to get the result that they want. And now they're sending sort of a more of a friendly version. They talk about David Attenborough. There's more of a sort of socially acceptable scientist. So anyways, that's boring. But the big point being, it's never seen war. It's a utopia. We're not going to see any weapons blowing up there. And then abc.net.au, this is the Australian Broadcasting Channel. China and Russia are eyeing up Antarctica, and experts say Australia should be more concerned. Watch out, Australia. We've also followed how Australia, New Zealand, they feel a very special responsibility as two of the gateway countries into Antarctica. Antarctica having sort of political and scientific battles with China over their enormous claim to Antarctica. And so they're fighting for it, putting more and more money towards protecting Antarctica from Russia, from China, because they're afraid of the ways that Russia and China will exploit it, not just its beautiful resources, but also use it for war fighting capabilities.
Yeah, and that's why we reported on the last episode, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern of New Zealand is on a trip right now, I think, in
Antarctica.
Reward. Yeah, her reward for zero
COVID. Yes, is to take a little trip.
Go down to the ice castle.
Now, I'm going to skip the first few bits of this article because it's just a bunch of history about Australia, Antarctica, and Russia. Mm-hmm. But there's this part here that says, why are they so interested? They being
why are they?
China and Russia? Let's find out. For most of us, Antarctica conjures up images of majestic icebergs and adorable penguins. And while the icy continent is home to some of the world's most breathtaking environmental wonders, it is also the site of untapped resources, oil, gas, minerals, and extensive fishing reserves that many countries want to get their hands on. Of course, not us, Australia or New Zealand. We have no interest in any of those wonderful things that could possibly elevate our place in the world.
Pretty sure
no, not us. But there remains a divide between the countries that want to keep it pristine, such as Australia and New Zealand. We want to keep it pristine. And the ones that hope to eventually exploit its potential, like China and Russia. As global resources decline and a ban on mining comes up for renegotiation in 2048. But even more crucial, according to Dr. Brady, is that Antarctica has emerged as a site of global strategic importance. For example, both China and Russia are looking to use Antarctica to enhance the accuracy of their own GPS systems to rival the United States, which is still the dominant global system. Not us, though. Australia and New Zealand, we have no interest in such things. We just love the penguins. Antarctica is key to their strategic plans, as it provides an ideal location to place satellite receivers. Not satellite receivers.
All
How will
those
the penguins
Russian
survive?
and Chinese memes floating through the air in our pristine Antarctica.
Cannot have such pollution. Dr. Brady says a shifting global order has made Antarctica more strategically important than ever before. And China has developed undeclared military interests there. Undeclared.
Well, if
they're keeping it secret from us, but we're on to you, you sneaky Chinese.
Okay, all right. Actions speak louder than words, but
it's undeclared, but we know they're there. Quote, rising powers, resurgent powers, and countries that wish to have more of a say internationally, not us, not Australia, not New Zealand, we don't care, are looking to places like Antarctica, which are not under the control of one nation, which have opportunities to take advantage of, she says.
Yeah, you got to defend the lesser, the marginalized, and the heart of Gaia, Antarctica, the icy cold heart of Gaia.
Yeah, and the secret entrance to the hollow earth. We cannot have the Chinese and the Russians finding their way into the center of our hollow earth. Anyways, so we've been seeing Antarctica be set up as a propagandistic tool to further the ongoing sort of power struggle. And within that, propaganda about how China and Russia, specifically, nobody else, just China, just Russia, everybody else is pure of heart, but China and Russia want to take all of its resources and use it to fire missiles and take over GPS stuff, I guess.
Eat all the fish and take all the oil and just strip it of resources, not unlike how the UN had done to places like Africa, but we're not going to talk about that. But the one thing that I did notice is that, and this is another sort of sub-thesis that we've been talking about, is that, why is Russia and China, why do they need to set up their satellite communication systems over there in the Antarctica? And it makes me wonder, especially because with the Guardian article, going back to that real quick, the guy's going to spend 5 months with penguins, no Wi-Fi, no running water. Like, what are we preparing for? Like, what kind of situation are they sort of wargaming for? And so in recent weeks, we've heard a lot about the nuke thing, right? Putin nuke, that can certainly be a thing. Last episode, we covered a guy who was chosen to go down and research in Antarctica for climate change. He was a ham radio operator, a young man, 27-year-old man. And so it's kind of like, okay, why was he chosen? Out of all the people, why was the ham radio operator chosen? As if maybe the normal communications network might go down or some crazy thing like that, or some kind of cyber pandemic. And especially if we're thinking about all the satellite communications, we have Starlink and obviously OneWeb and all these companies trying to create that internet from above. And it's a good time for everyone to switch over to the satellite. I know it's already, I know there's internet already happens on satellites, but just in terms of the new infrastructure, if and when the ground communications systems get disrupted somehow, perhaps by a natural disaster or a nuke or whatever it might be. So all the things seem to be trending towards this kind of a post-apocalyptic living survival mode type of deal, which is fun because, the preppers have been talking about that for a long time, but now it's just like mainstream scientists are like, we must prepare for climate change. They're calling it climate change and stuff, but really it feels like it's something else. And then just to add a little bit more, we talked about Jimmy Buffett, your favorite musician ever, doing a cruise down there. And I found an article that was related, and it makes a different point. But the article was a few months old from Inside Hook. And the headline is Why Gen Z Loves Jimmy Buffett. And I almost feel like it is Jimmy Buffett, born in 1946. He's part of that generation, people born in the 40s, the Clintons and there's a lot of influential people born in the 40s, post World War, Reconstruction, all that stuff. And I feel like the reason why he's being highlighted in the context of Antarctica is because they're sort of handing off that responsibility and some kind of weird occult ritual to Gen Zs. Like you guys are the next generation, much like the generation that was born in the 1940s that shaped society. So I don't know. Maybe it's my crazy conspiratorial thinking. I think of one conspiracy, I go down the rabbit trail, and all of a sudden I'm believing all kinds of crazy stuff, right?
Yeah, guys. You really got to stay away from those gateway conspiracies, man.
I know, but it's just I just follow breadcrumbs and I look up and I'm just somewhere else. I don't know. It's not me. I'm just following the trail. So. If following the trail is a crime.
No, it is bad. No, I'm going to report you to Fauci.
Oh, okay. Well, Elon, come free this bird then, buddy, as you claim.
Bird, Elon.
Free this canary who's stuck in a cage, can only think outside the cage, can't actually be outside the cage.
Deep cut. All right. Well, there you go, everybody.
Deep self-cut.
Deep self-cut.